Tracy, I'm starting the live stream.
Okay.
Just want to let you know that.
Yep. Thank you.
I'm also going to record to the cloud as backup.
Oh, my screen just went dark. You guys still
I
hear
didn't
me?
do it, Rita.
I know. It just like totally went dark. As long as I can hear you, I'm good.
Keep my fingers to myself.
Yeah. That's so strange.
You probably moved your mouse along the bottom rail.
No, I didn't actually. I didn't even touch the mouse. Well, as long as I can hear you. I could still hear you, right? You can hear me?
What'd you say?
You.
As long as I can hear you.
Tracy, can you let Joel in again, please? Oh, you are in, Joel.
Yeah, both solicitors are in.
It's 6:02, so I'm gonna get started. I can't tell if everybody's on. Louis, do we have a quorum?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, and I'd like to call this stated session of Easton City Council to order. Mr. Brown, would you give us an invocation, please? Sorry, I didn't call on you before, but
Be ever so ready.
I know you are. That's why I know.
Let's bow our heads. Father, we thank you for all things. We thank you through this pandemic that you have put us in here, but you put us here for a learning curve. You put us here that we may take care of each other and learn from one another as we take care of business in the city of Easton, Father. We thank you for all things that we do in the city. Be mindful of those who have and those who do not have. For these things we pray in your master's and wonderful name of your Son. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag,
Allegiance to the
United
flag,
States
States
of
of
United
America
States of America,
and to the republic
and to the republic
Which
One
is
One
stands,
nation.
stands one nation,
God,
under
indivisible.
God, indivisible.
under
indivisible,
God,
with
indivisible,
liberty and justice
liberty
for
and
all.
justice for all.
Amen.
Thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Brown,
Here?
Mr. Ettinger,
Here.
Mr. Milan,
Here.
Mr. O'Connell,
Here.
Dr. Ruggles,
Here.
Mrs. Volcano,
Here,
Mayor Panto.
Here. At this time, we'll have approval of the agenda. I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda to remove Letter C under new business, which deals with parking garage fees after 5 PM.
Okay. Need a second?
Second.
The reason for the need to remove it is because of technological issues with the kiosks. We're working with IPS to figure that out.
Okay.
Any other amendments to the approval of the agenda?
Nope.
Hearing none, roll call. Oh, is there a second?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. Roll
So
call.
this is on removing it. Okay.
Right.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Pianto,
Aye.
and Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Okay, we'll go on to the action minutes of our March 10th meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Volcano, moved by Ruggles. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Pianto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
Okay, at this point, we have the state of city address. I'd like to let you know that I'll be sending it out to you all virtually over the internet. I'll email it to you, but there's also will be printed copies on your desk for you when you come into City Hall. I labeled this state of the city address, honoring first responders. It's a time to thrive, not just survive. Last year, when I presented the state of the city address, Easton was on a path marked by positive improvements. Suddenly, time stood still. Our city, our nation, our world was placed on hold. The health and well-being of our residents, family, and community took priority. As the numbers rose, our economy stalled. As your city leader, it was a delicate balance to protect the health and safety of our community while desperately trying to minimize the economic impact on our businesses and city finances. 2020 was a year of fierce cross currents. The global pandemic, a national reckoning on race, a sharp economic downturn, especially for our small businesses, and our residents' inability to feed their families and pay their monthly bills. Faced with unparalleled challenges, our community came together to develop solutions to keep our community safe and survive. New phrases like flatten the curve, social distancing, and contact tracing, and advice like wearing a mask, wash your hands often, and use sanitizer became everyday part of our lives. PPE became a household acronym. During this time, our way of living was turned upside down, and we tried to slow the pandemic that claimed more than 540,000 lives in the United States alone, just as of this week. It made people afraid to go outside, dine in our restaurants, shop in our stores, attend more than 100 special events, or even attend church services. Our youth continue to struggle with the new concept of remote learning. Our seniors and our senior facilities were especially hurt because they were even unable to see family members. Depression, anxiety, and overall well-being and mental health overcame of a lot of people. Festivals and events were canceled. The State Theater stage went dark. Lafayette College students left campus. The Crayola Experience, the Siegel Museum, the National Canal Museum, and Nurture Nature all closed. Our hotels became empty. Restaurants were closed to indoor dining. We closed our pools. Traditions like Heritage Day, Lebanese Festival, Clam Jam, Garlic Fest, Bacon Fest, and so many other ethnic and cultural events and celebrations had to be canceled, or another new word, as what happened with Heritage Day, go virtual. The city forecasted a projected loss of $5.5 million in revenue, mostly from earned income tax, casino revenue, building permits, parking revenue, delayed payments, and other portions of our budget tied to the economy and people just not being able to pay their bills because they were unemployed. Economic development projects were delayed with the shutdown of the construction industry. To ease the burden, we delayed payments, removed the late penalties and fees, provided free parking in our downtown. We also commenced phase one of my business recovery plan, which provided for safe outdoor dining throughout the city. There is little doubt that phase one saved Easton's reputation as a culinary destination and allowed many of our restaurants to survive. Reputations are forged in times of crisis. I believe the way our city government responded during this pandemic has strengthened Easton's reputation for thoughtful, responsive, and effective local government. Throughout this pandemic, we have demonstrated our commitment to residents in this community. As mayor, I've not taken any decision related to our pandemic response lightly. Government is always a difficult balancing act, and this has never been more evident. The biggest problem was that the pandemic effects were impossible to quantify, as you heard me many times during our meetings when we were trying to give you an update on finances. In addition to the furloughs, several steps were taken to counter the loss of income. We appropriated funds for the surplus we had accumulated over the years. These measures were only made possible because steps had been taken over the previous years to strengthen our financial position, but we still projected a $2.6 million budget gap. The city continued to function and most service continued unabated. It was a tough but necessary decision to furlough 81 of our dedicated employees for 10 weeks as a means of responding to lower revenue projections. But we kept their health benefits and did it when there was also a $600 per week additional federal unemployment assistance in place. With the duration of the pandemic extending beyond the fall, we soon realized that we needed to commence phase 2 of our business recovery plan. And that would be to assist business retailers throughout the city, not just the downtown. With that was born the Easton Winter Market, complete with an ice skating rink. Financed primarily through CARES Act and private sector sponsors, we also had the support of Northampton County and our county executive, Lamont McClure. And we want to thank them immensely because without their support, we wouldn't have had a winter market. And we know that the winter market saved many of our small businesses. They've told us that in our surveys that we did after the holiday seasons were over. I believe we made the right decisions throughout the pandemic, and I thank City Council for your support. I thank the entire community for their understanding for a safe and healthy Easton. During this pandemic, we made tough choices, reduced services, closed buildings, closed City Hall, a public building, the edifice of public buildings. We closed that. City Administrator Campos, Finance Director Lisinecki, and I met every day to review our finances, where we were, what we needed to do to close the gap. The other directors and supervisors worked every day to assure city service were being delivered. Our police officers and firefighters continue to serve on our front line. And when our furloughed employees return, they have been instrumental in implementing innovative best practices that continue to benefit residents and save taxpayer dollars. There was another call to action that rings just as brightly today. Precipitated by the senseless and unnecessary death of George Floyd, outrage erupted in communities across our country this summer. For some, the passion and anger came as a surprise, but for many others, it was about time. Our largest gathering for a rally, more than 2,000 people, joined in Center Square for reform in a peaceful protest of the way things were being handled. As mayor, I've always tried to lead with DEI in mind, diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's a priority of our administration. I'm committed to making city departments more equitable and inclusive. Just in the last 3 years, 13 minorities and 24 women have been hired. We just offered a female position with our police department. It'll be our second female officer. And in the next 2 that we hope to hire when the academy opens in July is a Black and an Asian male. We're doing our best to try to make ourselves more inclusive. It should be clear that while this country speaks aspirationally about equality for all and color blindness, equal opportunity, we have fallen short of those ideals in practice. Various legislative efforts have been made since Susan B. Anthony led the campaign in 1863, collecting more than 400,000 signatures to abolish slavery. But also the Congress-packed Constitution Amendment 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, the Civil Rights Act of 1994. All of these were very important, but unfortunately were ineffective and produced incomplete results. But the frontier in the fight for equality lies largely within the heart and minds of each of us. While we are all products of our environment, we are also uniquely endowed with the capacity to examine how each of us is shaped by our own character and our own integrity. We have the capacity to question our subconscious assumptions and our learned implicit bias. I believe and support a strong and effective police force, but improving police accountability, enhancing police community relations will always be a priority of my administration. Even before the national movement this summer, we had accomplished more on police reform than any prior administration in recent memory, and our record proves it. More than ever, I believe our city is well situated to weather unforeseen challenges. During this new year, our focus will be on restoring the local economy and placing us back on our trajectory of positive change. With the assistance of the federal government's increase in our stimulus grant, we will do our part, restarting our economy and getting people back to work. There's no question that the steps we implemented at the outset of this pandemic got us through 2020. I will highlight some of the work of our city administrator and departments, but I ask you read them as directors and ask directors any questions you may have, because it's just too much data and too many things that were accomplished last year to list them all. First of all, I'm very proud of the fact that for 13 years, you heard me say that clean and safe was my priority. That remains true today. This chart says it all. In 2020, we experienced our 15th annual decrease in crime, making Easton a cleaner and safer community. Last year's decrease was 18.9%. And yes, some of that is attributable to pandemic, but a lot of it is contributed to good police work. As you recently saw with the McCartney Street incident with Lafayette College students, that the city, when it happened under our control, it was solved within a week. Unfortunately, almost 4 years, we went 4 years without a homicide, and that was tremendous. But unfortunately, last year we had 2. There were no homicides, however, in the West Ward, and that's good news. And in that neighborhood, the most densely populated neighborhood of our city, Part 1 crimes were down 18, 177 initially in 2019 and 159 last year, 159 too many. UCR Part 2 were down from 280 to 75 incidents. All this is because people are getting involved in keeping their neighborhoods clean and safe, and our police officers are doing a tremendous job. And if you do the crime in Easton, we almost guarantee you every time you're going to do the time. Citywide, our total call for services was down 2,079 from 2019, which allowed more time for traditional patrols and getting police officers out of their cars, on foot, or bike patrol. Throughout the year, our accredited police department continued upgrades in policies and procedures, worked through all the trials and tribulations of the pandemic, implemented full utilization of IA Pro and Blue Team software, which every officer uses Blue Team to document and review all of the force incidents where force was used in an investigation or an incident. The administrative staff uses IA Pro to conduct internal and administrative investigations related to citizens' complaints. The department also received a $100,000 grant to purchase a new report management system, upgrading equipment, including our Protect Impact RT plate carrier systems, which goes over the bulletproof vest to give the police officers added protection against AR-15 rifles, new tasers, and more. We've accomplished so much in the police department and in every department. Officers continued further education and training. Every officer received instruction in advanced defense driving, ambush awareness, constitutional and community policing, cultural awareness 1 and 2, anti-harassment in the workplace, de-escalation and minimizing the use of force, anti-bias training for law enforcement, responding to people with mental illness, and dealing with stress, as well as Gang 1, Gang 2, and Gang 3. I'm proud of the officers' response, and more appropriately, lack of response. When I say lack of response, I personally witnessed during the rally some young adults going up right within the nose to nose with police officers and yelling and screaming at them, calling them all sorts of names and using profanities. And our police officers stood there and took that. I don't know that I could. The administration and city council took Easton from deficits in 2008 to a surplus totaling over $5.6 million. Make no mistake, it was this planning and preparation that allowed us to overcome the ills of the pandemic. As a clear indication of our successful economic development program and continued upgrading of our residential programs is the continued increase in our assessed value, even when the county decreased our common level ratio from 33.5% to 27.1%. We restructured the city debt to give us ability to meet the financial challenges of the pandemic, and it also provides the needed funds for the 4th Street parking deck. Without our fund balance, without the ability to go to the financial markets on favorable terms and restructuring our debt, we would have been looking at significant reductions in staffing and services or huge tax increases of almost 7 mils. The administration continues to upstate our use of technology. We really have come into the future, and we are light years ahead of where we were in 2008. We have a long way to go. We're spending a lot, 100% more than we ever spent in 2007 because we never even had a staff. Now we have 2 full-time people plus a lot of technology, and that technology is changing. And one of the reasons why technology is so important, such as the beginning of our fiber optic loop started construction this past week, and Crown Castle is putting that in the downtown, and we extend that throughout the city. It allows us to attract businesses that are looking to move where technology is adequately available. Public Works. The Public Works Department is responsible for managing the city's physical assets and consists of the following: highway, parks, buildings, parking facilities, engineering, traffic services, recreation, neighborhood programs, fleet management, wastewater treatment, stormwater treatment, sanitary sewer utilities, and urban forestry. And Dave Hopkins also was the lead person on our 4th Street Garage project, which was in the planning stages last year and came and is being constructed within the next 30 days. Start. The department also provides a diverse array of residential services, including trash and recycling pickup, municipal recycling, drop-off, and e-waste events, youth recreation, and neighborhood programming, special event support, street sweeping, curbside leaf, and brush removal. The men and the women of that department rose to meet the challenges of 2020 and managed to accomplish many of the objectives in our annual work plan, even with employees being furloughed. There's a lot of highlights, and it's in your report, and I hope you take the time to read what that department has done and some of the things that we're planning for 2021. But one of the greatest things is I had the ability to, or was asked to speak at the Community Bike Works event last year in Allentown. Actually, I'm sorry, it was in Bethlehem. It was at the Bethlehem Library, and but they were really, it's a great organization, and this is what the city, working with Community Bike Works and the Greater Easton Development Partnership, is looking to do with a building, a dilapidated, rundown building in our West Ward on Spruce Street, to provide an opportunity for kids to work and earn their own bicycle and learn safety and everything else, and proper wearing of helmets and pads. But also on the second floor, we will house the GEDP will house the ambassadors who are, as you know, extended into the West Ward. We also are looking about what people want today. Residents want open space and greenery. So we purchased the Easton Iron and Metal property on Bushkill Drive. And we're working through the plans right now of what we can have there. And we have $2.3 million in grants to help us with that. 1.3 is to help us clean up the environmental waste that may be left at the iron and mill and demolished the buildings. And $1 million for pedestrian and bicycling upgrades, such as curbs, sidewalks, street trees, lights, and safety issues. So we're very excited. Additionally, this department doesn't get credit enough because all the things are done underground. Last year, we rehabbed 1,000 feet of pipes of sanitary sewer and 1,000 feet of storm sewer. Obviously, it's all underground and most people don't see it. Our fire department is an all hazards department. It's not just a fire department, it's all hazards that provides fire suppression, rescue, first responder emergency medical services, hazardous materials response, water rescue, fire investigation, disaster preparation, and public education for the city. The Easton Fire Department consistently works to achieve and maintain the highest level of professionalism and efficiency on behalf of those it serves. Last year, they responded to 1,837 emergencies or calls. 486 of them were medical calls, and 491 of them were other calls. In addition to that, our firefighters expended over 8,000 hours of training last year alone. In 2020, Thanks to city council, our recommendation was approved. We approved the hiring of one additional firefighter per platoon, which resulted in reduction of more than 50% from $1.1 million in overtime in 2019 to $508,000 last year, for a total net savings of about $300,000 or 1 mil of taxes. The average response time for an arriving first unit for all emergency calls was 2 minutes and 32 seconds. Really good. 2 civilians were injured by fire last year, but thankfully there were no injuries. Dollar value of property saved was $330,000 compared to $5.3 million that was actually exposed. Codes has been very busy, decreasing our blight, making our neighborhoods more safe and clean. You can see some of the before and after slides here. During that time last year, 2020 began with a 2.5% rise in permit activity in January, February, and the beginning of March. Then all of a sudden, as we all know, that all changed. Additionally, the census outreach efforts of them was very good, from hopscotch in the neighborhoods to all kinds of outreach with working with the U.S. Census Bureau. As a matter of fact, we were given awards for our efforts on getting the correct count. And that census was very important. But we saw a huge increase in permit activity last year of about 85% from 2019. Overall, 2020 had 12% less activity, or 260 less applications than the year before. Furlough of employees affected a number of code enforcement cases. They dropped by 35%. There was also a significant drop in our quality of life violation tickets from 462 the year before to only 155 last year. On the bright spot last year, our certified blighted list was reduced from 37 to 29, with people like you see here taking time to restore their properties. This is one at the bottom of Lafayette Street on Route 611. That was it was just not a nice home. And the continued trend of taking formerly blighted properties and rehabilitating them is improving the quality of life in our neighborhoods and reducing crime. Finally, our active health bureau conducted 296 health inspections, a reduction of nearly 25%, mostly related to the fact that we didn't have any festivals. I want you to look at this very carefully. This comes up all the time when we talk, like our meeting last night, which was an excellent meeting on development. Everything in color was destroyed and demolished by urban renewal. I call it urban removal, like many other people. No one was in favor. And more than 4,000 people lost the place where they lived, and they were moved to the suburbs. I know that because I was hired by the Redevelopment Authority my junior and senior year in college, to go out and interview everybody that was moved out or displaced from the central business district. Vacant parcels continue to become eyesores for the city, and developers made a lot of promises. This was the promise when I was working for Redevelopment Authority those 2 summers that was hanging in the lobby. This was going to be where you see the upper middle on the right-hand side was where City Hall is today. The lower right-hand side is where the Days Inn was, and then the walkway over to a parking deck where McDonald's is today. And Mr. Chartier came in. You see that big S in the back with Sheraton, the angled shaped walls, and this was going to be beautiful and was going to resurrect the city. That was the dream. This was the reality. We got a Class D Sheraton that became a Days Inn, became a Quality Inn, and unfortunately didn't represent the city well. But not just from a cosmetic point of view entering our city. When I tried to meet with the owners, the comments that were coming out of TripAdvisor didn't make our city a very good place to stay. People coming to visit Crayola were staying there, and the reviews were horrible. So we're very excited that on tonight's agenda, you're going to see this. The future is the confluence. We got a mulligan on this property, and that mulligan is being used to provide a project that Perron is going to start called the Confluence. That's going to be a mixed use of retail, grocery stores, cinemas, and rental units. And they've just changed to additional additionally, they're going to reduce from the hotel office, which obviously no one's building, to 50 condominiums will actually have owner occupied for the first time in many years living in downtown Easton. And I mean, there's plenty that live there now, but I'm talking about new construction. So we're very excited about that. But the Department of Community and Economic Development has been very, very busy because we've tasked them with many chores, including this building on Prospect Street. It's not there anymore. It's been demolished. And it'll be our first home that's going to be a brand new stick-built home that is going to be for an affordable housing program. It's the first start of our affordable housing program. And this one is being built to be fully handicap accessible so that a person that maybe have a physically handicapped individual in their family will be able to live there. Again, John has done a remarkable job in his staff and we work very closely with the Redevelopment Authority. Probably the best, I'm not going to brag about this, but the best decision that I made that City Council supported was back in 2008 when I restructured the Redevelopment Authority to have their director as the Director of Economic Development of the city also be the Director of Redevelopment Authority. We worked very closely together. This project is actually being done as a Redevelopment Authority project, not a City of Easton project. So I want to make that clear. But we've worked very closely with them. Also, the department has worked with a lot of other things, including the Seville's down on, which is under construction. Hearst, which has already moved in, it's built. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, many of them are still working from home, but we see activity there during the day, not as much as we'd like to see, but we are very fortunate. I don't think people realize this. We now have 2 Fortune 100 companies in downtown Easton, Crayola Experience and Hearst. Pretty good. The mill at Easton, formerly the Black Diamond. Gosh, I feel so bad that John Robinson passed away before he had the dreams to be able to see this dream. This was a dream of his for the last 20 years. And this is affordable housing for people in the city who can move in here and have their rent be based on their income. It's a wonderful facility. There's also Mr. Harrison has a commercial use that he's looking to attract a grocery store for the south side there in that neighborhood, although we're one of the few neighborhoods that have a grocery store. But he's looking to attract grocery store and other neighborhood service amenities. Right across the street is the Easton Yards. If you haven't been by it lately, you need to go by it because most of the skin on the outside is already done. These will be market rate apartments. So you'll have market rate people living right across from low mod people. And that's always a good situation. It's a situation I grew up in when I moved out of Delaware Terrace into my home on my parents' home on Milton Street. But Easton Yards is going to be is the old GAF mill, where probably more patents were there when it was a chemical facility for GAF. More patents came out of that mill than most mills in the entire state of Pennsylvania. Read up on it. It's pretty interesting reading. But all of our festivals, were gone. And 2020 was a year of challenge, controversy, resiliency, and incredible acts of kindness throughout Easton, where people came together and made masks when they were in demand, collected food, distributed to the needy, clothing and food, and all of that was excellent. And working with the county and the GEDP, we were able to give some business grants, some residential grants, trying to evade what is ultimately going to happen when landlords and mortgage companies are allowed to evict and foreclose. Our police department has done an outstanding job. Our fire department has worked tirelessly on the front lines, delivering emergency medical services, even during the pandemic. All of our public employees have been remarkable in serving our community. Let me conclude by saying that I'm honored to be mayor during these unprecedented times, and I'm looking forward to our continued recovery and growth. While at times during the past year, our challenges seemed insurmountable, we worked collaboratively to meet this pandemic together, to plan the challenges we face, and to creatively and passionately develop a pathway for a bright future. In the coming year, we will continue to focus on the important issues that strengthen our community and make Easton an inviting, affordable, and desired place to live, work, and raise a family. That means strong fiscal management, safe neighborhoods, job opportunities, recreational activities and facilities, energy efficiency, sustainable, smart growth, innovation, continued investment in city infrastructure, fostering cultural diversity, making sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion is included in everything that we do, and support and respect for one another, the most important of all. Our goal of restoring Easton back to its pre-urban renewal days is meeting its goal. Our population is increasing, but it won't get to where it was back in the day before urban renewal when we displaced 4,000 people. But our assessed value is increasing. Crime is decreasing. Taxes and fees are level, and almost all of the urban renewal parcels are now fully developed again to their fullest. We would all love to have the Boyd Theater back, the Orpheum and the Ranch House, and all that. That's those times have gone. We've lost them. But to be able to use that land to continue our prosperity in the city is very important. My job today in lobbying is shifted from getting direct aid to cities, towns, villages, and tribal organizations. We now have that with the ARP, American Recovery Plan, or American Rescue Plan. But as you all know, Easton was misclassified, and we are working hard to get the fair share that we deserve, our residents deserve, not you and me, but our residents deserve, so that we can put that money in building back our economy, helping our residents, helping our small businesses, and all the good things that we can do, and funding valuable infrastructure projects that we desperately need in water and wastewater. I will tell you that our plan is not to survive, it's to thrive. Finally, I want to thank my family, especially my wife, Pam, who endured my year of increased stress and more than normal. My children, my grandchildren, my heavenly mom, who passed away 14 years ago yesterday, my dad, my 93-and-a-half-year-old dad, sisters, brothers, all of them. I appreciate their endless support, made more difficult living with me during this pandemic. Eastonians, the state of our city is healthy. It's just not wealthy. Thank you all, and God bless you all. Have a great night. Okay, moving right along. That's our state of the city, and I suggest that anybody who wants to, we can email you the state of the city. It's been scanned, and we can send it out virtually. Our departments were very busy. It'd be really great for people to do that.
Mayor,
So at this point, we have public comment on agenda items only. If you are in the, and you can stop sharing my, I got to do that, huh?
there you go.
If you want to, if there's anybody in the public would like to ask a question about anything on the agenda, please raise your hand and Tracy will let you into the meeting. We have 11 attendees. Oh, I see we have some members of our 185 committee. That's great. Seeing no, I don't see any hands raised, Louis, so we'll move, and Tracy, so we'll move on to the consent agenda, Madam Clerk.
Okay, we have a resolution on the consent agenda that would approve a certificate of appropriateness for 154 Northampton Street. A resolution that would also approve a certificate of appropriateness for 54 South 5th Street. And we have a resolution that would make an appointment to the Easton Suburban Water Authority as well as the Easton Area Joint Sewer Authority.
I move the consent agenda.
Moved by Ruggles,
Second.
second by
Second.
Volcano. Any comments or concerns? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
and Mayor Panto.
Aye. At this time, we'll go, there are no reports of the committee, go right into Finance Committee. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything, but I did want council to know that I had an opportunity last week to look at the live stream from the meeting. And I saw that Dr. Ruggles has spoke about the ideal of the utilities and the garbage and going to Fort Knox. And some of the things he talked about during it was whether we keep going the way we're going or send it to them earlier So I just wanted to pick up on that to see if Dr. Ruggles had any more questions in reference to that from Mr. Sinecki. And I also know that Councilmember Milan has spoke too about the 2020 unpaid real estate taxes. And he had asked for a breakdown of that. So I wanted to give that opportunity to each of them. Starting with Dr. Ruggles, if you had any questions.
No, I don't, I mean, if, are we going to be going through the distributed,
We will.
February finals? Okay, I have some questions there.
And Councilman Milan?
Well, he never gave us the numbers, the breakdown.
Okay, so you have what you need then.
No, he never gave them to us.
All right. Mark, are you there?
I am, yes. Mr. Mullen, sorry, which numbers did you not receive?
Did you provide a breakdown of the aging for the outstanding taxes?
I thought I had provided that. If not, I'll make sure to send that out.
Yeah, I didn't get anything on taxes being,
I didn't see nothing.
Okay.
And nothing was distributed
Mr.
to us.
Brown? Go ahead, Pete, Mr. Milan.
No, and nothing was distributed. So the only thing we got from finance was the spreadsheet. I believe it was last night, I think.
What, February?
Yeah.
I'm the same way, Peter.
So I don't, other than that, I mean, unless other council members received it, I didn't receive anything.
Okay, I'll make sure to get that out.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Mr. Brown, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
I have a constituent who contacted me today who is out of town for the winter, and she pays her bills email or e-checks apparently. And her taxes, she paid by e-check. She never received a tax bill. And she called and they told her that it was being extended. So she paid it by e-check. And then they proceeded to send her send her payment back saying it was late and it was the incorrect amount. So when she called again, they told her to then send a paper check, which she is hoping has paid her taxes. So I'm just wondering if the correct information is being distributed by our person who is handling our taxes. That one clerk is saying it's extended and then the system is bouncing things back.
Yeah, and I
Somebody
understand
check
that.
into
That's very
that.
frustrating. Sandra, if you can get offline after the meeting and talk to Mark, and Mark can do a deeper dive into this so that we can even follow
Very
it up.
happy to, but I just wanted to bring that out while we were
I
talking
appreciate
about,
that. Mark, will you take care of that for me?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you,
That's all I
Mr.
have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Economic Development Committee, Mrs. Volcano.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say, first of all, that last night's meeting was, in my opinion, a breath of fresh air to be live. And it was most enjoyable to hear the discussion that we had on both issues. I hope that in the future we'll be able to do more of that. So thank you, Mr. O'Connell, for doing that, and the mayor and staff and St. John's Church and Dr. Ruggles for setting that all up, because I thought it was very nicely done. Thank you.
Mayor, I think Mark was going to go into the February's numbers.
All right, let me Mrs. Volcano finish, then we'll get back to
Yeah, I'm
Mark.
just gonna say I have two things on the agenda tonight. One is a introduction of a ordinance, bill number 9, approving a purchase and sale agreement between the city of Easton and the 185 South 3rd Street property. And I want to thank everybody involved, because I know that was a couple more months than we expected to have that done. And I don't think we received everything we wanted, but I think a happy compromise was made. So thank you to everyone. And also we have a resolution in reference to doing a applying for a grant for the rope building down on Burscoe Drive. So that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, or Mr. Lucinecki, you want to give us a February update?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Brown, and good evening, council, or members of council. So early, as was noted, early yesterday evening, I sent out a February results report, and I wanted to highlight several items of note. Starting with the general fund revenues, I want to first off just remind council that many of our revenues are cyclical as opposed to coming in straight lined. So it is often easier to compare, the current year to prior year versus necessarily the budget. Though as we've, as we all know, 2020 was a bit of an anomaly, so it may be a little trying to compare. Okay, but with that said, starting with real estate taxes, we're down about 5% so far year over year, which isn't really surprising given that the pandemic didn't fully hit us until March of last year. With that said, though, not as many taxpayers took advantage of the discount period, which means that there could be a potential savings. The discount period ended earlier this month, so in the next report, we'll have a better view of where that came in. Next, moving over to combined EIT. Surprisingly, we're virtually flat compared when we combine our resident and non-resident EIT so far this year versus last year. And given the kind of again the unexpected trend we saw in 2020, we expect that we'll continue to ride that trend into 2021. And just as a note, we're actually up a little bit over where we were in February of 2019. Let's see here. Next, BPT. It's running a bit lighter than last year, which is which we had predicted and projected with our 2021 budget. As a point of reference, in 2019, we had budgeted $670,000 on this line item. Last year, we dropped that figure down to $520,000. And now we're at 568 so far for this year. So we're still well under where we were in prior years, again, given the impacts of the pandemic. Real estate transfer taxes are up about 44% over last year, which is an interesting sign, good sign. If we move over to utility billing, trash is basically flat year over year, and sewer revenue is down slightly, about 1.6% February year to date this year versus last year. Our water system rents, really just a timing of the recognition of that revenue. It's really a journal entry. We'll make sure to have that posted. And then parking meter revenue as far as coins, so the non-credit card items. I do want to note that there were a couple of entries missed there. So the revenue numbers look very, very light. We will correct that in the next go around, but as a point of reference, we collected about $59,000 in coin revenue through February. So that adjustment will be made in the next report that'll go out. Shifting over to expenses, and here it's a little bit easier to kind of straight line those and say, we can take about approximately 1/12 of expenses each month and gauge where we are because those are more straight lined. Salaries and wages, we're currently running at about 95% of the anticipated budget. So again, if we take 2/12, right, of our annual budget for those line items combined in the general fund, we're a little bit lighter than that so far. And I think that's, just timing of headcount coming in. So, we'll keep an eye on that. OT, unfortunately through February, we're up again, comparing, versus the budget, we're up 45% versus what we would anticipate our annual run rate to be. That is definitely a bit concerning. When we combine all of the departments, we're already at 24% of our annual budget, and unfortunately, fire is driving a good portion of that OT so far. There are several issues going on in the fire department, and we are working with Chief Hennings and the team there to kind of mitigate that. But we do have one firefighter who's still out on long-term disability. There was a recent resignation. and some retirements. We do, and also, I'm sorry, we don't yet have a deputy chief, so that creates some bumping. So folks are elevated to deputy, and we've got movement around through the ranks, which is causing, or which is driving that OT up. We do
Wait a
currently
second.
have,
Hold on, Mark, hold on one second.
yeah.
I understand if a captain's not on duty, the lieutenant is bumped up to a captain. Why would they be, why would a union employee be bumped up to a non-union employment?
I may be mistaken there, Mayor.
Okay,
I don't
all
know.
right, just want to make sure, okay.
Just I
All
think,
right.
Mayor, the one of the largest drivers is that we have 4 individuals right now in the
Right.
academy that are not counted
Right.
towards the manning. The deputy position is vacant at the moment.
That's what I thought. Okay, I just want to make sure.
yeah. And actually, I was going to bring that up. The 4 folks we have in the academy are going to be coming online and will be included in minimum manning in about September of this year. So they've got 6 months of academy, a couple of months of on the job training, and then they are formally in the ranks. Lastly, on the expense side in the general fund, workers' comp, right now we're at 50% of our budget when we combine all those line items. And the reason for that is really just an accounting entry. We use those expense line items in the general fund to fund the workers' comp fund itself. And our claims have been running a bit high of late. So we wanted to set that money aside now so that we didn't have to scramble later to address any any shortcomings as we pay out workers' comp claims. So those are kind of the high level points I wanted to note in the general fund. When we look at some of the other funds, the capital fund 151, we did have some sale of large items, including I believe a dump truck earlier this year, which brought in some additional revenues. In the MS4 fund, revenue is basically on budget. And we do allocate expenses on a quarterly basis. So those will be coming in our next report. The 808 or sewer fund, I will comment on that in just a moment. And I did note that in my email to council yesterday evening. And then 901 and the parking authority fund, garages are really just, not unexpectedly seeing the daily usage that we had seen in prior years. So that revenue is a bit down from last year. However, monthly parking passes are up year over year, which is nice. So we are getting more folks to come in and get those passes. So outside of the notes or the accounts that I've noted above, I don't really see any large items of concern. Now we are only 2 months in, so we'll obviously be updating council regularly. To add a quick note, our continuing efforts to close out 2020 are still all pointing in the right direction. We are having regular meetings with our controller, Chris Hagel, with Lewis, our city administrator, our auditors, and members of my team for audit updates. And based on our last discussion, which was late last week, we are confident that the audit will be completed this summer, and we'll continue to provide updates as information becomes available. In closing, I had intended to send council a revised February report, given the comments that, again, I made in my email of last night. Main point of the revision was simply to reflect the booking of the sewer fund related journal entries. While those were completed earlier today, I didn't have time to turn those around and put those in the, in a more formal format to get those out to council. However, I will get those out, or I will get the revised report out by tomorrow. And I will include some of these adjustments that I did note, like the meter revenue that were not included in the prior version. Okay, so with that said, I'll take a breath and ask if there are any questions.
Dr. Ruggles.
Yeah, I have a few questions. In account number 101-5068-35806, the parking authority, why is that zero? I mean, last year we had a year to date.
So I'm sorry, Dr. Ruggles, you're saying that that's zero so
I have a line through year-to-date on 2021 on my copy.
I'm sorry, Dr. Ruggles, could you repeat that one more time?
I said, I have a line through on, or zero on my spreadsheet that I received for, you want the account number again?
No, it's 101, 50, 68, 35, 806, the Easton Parking Authority, where
Right.
we've got a budget of 853,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's money that is moved over, you know, on a, I believe a quarterly basis. So we don't have,
but we got it last year at year-to-date. I mean, if it's moved quarterly, it would be moved quarterly every year, right?
it should be correct. But can I ask,
We're not at the end of the quarter yet.
right,
Yeah,
we're
but
not
I
at the,
mean, we got it last year by this time. We have a year-to-date from last year.
Dr. Ruggles, what do you see as the
It's
value?
showing zero on my spreadsheet.
Right. That's, I guess, where I'm a little confused.
Yeah, it's zero. There's nothing year to date for 20. It's zeros across.
Dr. Ruggles, the line right above that is the total for the wastewater, which is 927,000. I mean, is that maybe the line that you saw there? Because yeah, year to date for both last year and this year is zero. And thank you, Ms. Milan.
Yeah. I mean, if it's quarterly, it's quarterly, but I mean, why did we get a value for year-to-date last year if it's quarterly?
You
Would be
didn't.
my question.
It's not showing it on the spreadsheet. It's straight zeros. I'm not sure what you're looking at. Mine says
Okay.
853,190.
Okay.
Nothing for year to date for 21. The variance, which is 853,190, and then there's zeros across then. I'm not sure what you're looking at.
I'm trying to get to it.
Okay.
Mark, can you show your screen, please? It's a lot easier. That way we all can follow.
Okay, I believe it's this
No,
line.
you're right,
Dr.
you're
Ruggles?
right. Okay, my fault.
That's- Okay.
Yep. Can we go to 203, 1,000, 34207,
203, sorry, 1,000,
34207,
34207?
207, correct.
Okay.
I just wanted to know what that is. We have a budget there of 50,000 and we don't have anything year to date. Again, is that a quarterly thing or what is city rent of buildings?
Yeah, that's basically the rent that we're paying to ourselves. So yes, that typically we do quarterly.
Okay, okay. I'm not sure if this is just a misentry or not, but 101-2021 43131. Just $2?
Yeah, that would be yeah, that would be nice if we were paying Kelly Ryan $2, but no, that is definitely an issue that I did not catch. So I'll make sure to address that when I send out the revised February numbers tomorrow.
I did want to make a note of something which I hadn't realized, but I saw in the 101-5051 04231. 10150.
I'm sorry, Dr. Rhodes. 04?
04231.
Okay.
Sorry, my computer's going nuts here. I just wanted to make a note here because this is something I hadn't realized. You know, we talk about snow removal that we had, and you know, we talk about the overtime, but if you take a look at our vehicle fuel, and I assume this is for snow removal, is that probably that peak? But I mean, we not only did we have overtime in that, but the fuel consumption went way up as a result of snow plowing. And that was something that's $56,000 almost of additional cost just from fuel as a result of snow plowing. But just wanted to bring that out. There are three that are side by side here. It's 101, 5052, 0436 1. That's the first one. Okay, I just have a question here. Our electricity, gas, and water for municipal buildings are up 2.5 times, not percent, times last year, 1.4 times for gas and 3.5 times for water. I'm just wondering why our utilities are going through the roof here.
I'm going to have to take a look at that, Dr. Ruggles, and get back to you. I don't have an answer.
I mean, if anything, they probably should have, I mean, at least water should have gone down because we weren't in a building in large portions of beginning of the year. And last year we were, you know, so it just didn't make sense to me that those were up that much. And my very last one, Mark, glad this is the last one, 101, 5059, 04364. I look at year to date for 21 at 2.1 million, and I look at year to date for 20 at 548,000, and that's a big spread. We've done 82.3% of our budget so far on this item this year. I'm not sure what that is.
Again, I will have to provide you with an answer, Dr. Ruggles and counsel. I don't have that.
I mean, that's,
it doesn't make sense.
yeah, I mean, it just, and that's a big number.
Yeah.
That was my last one.
Okay, thank you for those, Dr. Ruggles, and I will provide you and the rest of council with answers tomorrow.
Mark, can you the issue that you mentioned in your email about the sewer fund transfers?
Yep.
Just to let you know, not that this is, I'm sure it's gonna get resolved, but right now, because of that accounting issue, you're showing a $300,000 variance between what was budgeted for revenue and what was budgeted for expenses. So if you can kind of explain the timing of that, because you're not right now, you're not in sync with the budget.
I'm sorry, Mr. Muller, can I ask you to be maybe more specific with where that $300,000 discrepancy you're seeing is?
Well, I think what you're doing, I think in your department, it's under 4808. I think that's where the whack is.
Okay.
You had an email you were going to explain to us.
Yep.
That there were some, I guess, delays in transfers.
Yep.
So what is so right there, No, in your department, not the mayor's.
Yeah, no. So yeah, so just to, if you don't mind, just to be clear, so each department does have, or not necessarily all, but most departments do have a transfer to sewer services fund allocation, right? So it's basically a negative expense where we are taking a certain percentage based on the work that's being done by that particular department or area to support the sewer services. So basically our underground sewer utility. So that's just, again, just a note for everyone. Okay, but I believe you mean here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Actually, that's not even. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Yeah, so here, so again, some of the entries may have been booked, but not everything, that would transfer expenses out of these particular departments that are impacted and into the sewer fund, into the 808 fund. And that's what, again, we finalized those earlier today. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to turn that around and provide that out to council before this evening. But I will make sure to do that tomorrow and address some of the concerns that I brought up and also the ones that Dr. Ruggles brought up as well.
Okay, so right now, just so you know that item, that expense that you're showing is out of whack by $104,000 from the budget. We budgeted a negative 314,382. So should we expect it every month then? Is there going to be a delay?
No, I'm still not sure I follow.
Well, we approved the budget back in December.
Yeah.
That budget is for $314,000. That's what we budgeted. So your number at 418,620 increased from what we budgeted. That's what a variance is. So what council approved and what you're showing us are not, they're not in sync.
Got it.
Okay?
Okay. I will address that as well. Okay. Again, I will address these concerns with council. I will send out a note tomorrow with updated figures and just ask if there are any other questions. Please let me know either now or follow-up emails. I would appreciate that. Okay. Sorry, Mayor, I think you're muted.
Mr. Brown, is that the end of your report? Councilman Brown, is that the end of your report?
Yes, it is, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, before you go on,
Oh, I see your hands up. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, it's okay. I don't know how to take it down. Okay, I'm lowering in. Wait a
Just-
minute. Okay. You mentioned that Mr. Callahan is in the audience. I didn't know if he wanted to say anything at this time under my.
Mr. Who? You're muted, Sandy.
She said Callahan.
Mayor Callahan.
Oh, he will be, yeah.
Oh, he's not?
Yeah, he's available. The
Is
Perron
he
people are on
interested
site.
in saying anything at this time?
We're gonna let them speak when we get to the
Okay,
letter D. When you introduce that, we'll let them speak.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Planning and Code Committee, Mr. O'Connell.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a meeting, a committee meeting last evening regarding whether residents should be allowed to have keep chickens in their backyard. It was a pretty good discussion. Most of the participants did participate via Zoom, and there are several pros and cons to this issue. We've decided that we will, in the very near future, We'll form a committee made up of interested citizens to discuss this matter further. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connell. Public Safety, Councilmember Ruggles. Where'd he go? He must be getting back on. He's not on here right now. We'll skip him. We'll come back to him. Public Works Committee, Mr. Ettinger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no report tonight. I do, however, have several pieces of legislation. I'll be moving Bill number 7, which makes Church Street, 300 block of Church Street, one-way westbound, as well as a couple of resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the work you've done this week. It's busy night for Public Works. Administration Committee, Mr. Milan.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have is that I had a conference call today with Crown Counsel and Frank Caruso regarding the status of the fiber optic project, and that we are pretty much on track to launch in the first quarter of 2022. So Frank and I think will be presenting at the first meeting in April. We have a presentation that we want to update council on. And in the meantime, if anyone has any question about the fiber optic project, please reach out to me.
Great work there, Peter. It's going to be a real big boost for downtown Easton and the city. So,
Hey, Sal?
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Ruggles. Oh, you're back.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, my camera is not detected, but I guess my voice is, so.
We got you. Well, your name wasn't detected either.
Well,
Now it is.
I signed off and I signed back on just to see if I could get the camera going, so.
All right. You can give us your report then for public safety.
Okay, thank you. I would like to report to council that we had a meeting this week with our consultant for fire engines, and he discussed some of the issues that were brought up related to that report. I assume everybody got a copy of it, and we actually went down yesterday to take a look at the 2 fire engines that were listed in that report. And I'd like to report to council that these are incredibly nice fire engines. I could not believe that they were 10 years old. They look like they just came off the assembly line. And I think we have a great opportunity here to get these. And I think we're going to be working on that over the next week or so to see how that might come about. But these are 2 Pierce fire engines that have just everything basically that we need on them. And it would be beneficial to replace some of the older units and other units within the fleet currently that are really questionable. So I think this is a great opportunity for us, and you'll be hearing more about that in the weeks to come. Other than that, I have no report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Ruggles. And yes, improving our fire apparatus is a major priority. So thank you for your efforts on that. And Chief Hennings and Lewis and Dave down at the garage. Report to City Solicitor, Mr. Shear.
Yes, I have no special report, but I do want to say that I'm happy to see that after what has literally been a year and a lot of back and forth, we have an agreement of sale for 185 South 3rd Street on the agenda for action tonight.
Thank you for your efforts there, Mr. Shear. Mayor's report. The one thing I've been trying to keep you updated on all my correspondence, but I've had a number of phone calls and Zoom calls for the last 3 days or 4 days on our stimulus allocation. And I know that Congressman Wild and Senator Casey are well aware of it. They're working on it real hard. I've had conversations, John Kingsley Lewis and I had a conversation with the U.S. Treasury. I've had conversations with the White House Intergovernment Office. I've had conversations with the National League of Cities. As a board member, they're going to push for us. Pennsylvania Municipal League, Rick Shuttler is the one who brought it to my attention before I even saw the allocation table. So he saw it as a major onus. I mean, I know that it looks like I'm trying to be greedy, But I just want Easton's fair share. I don't want any more, but I certainly don't want any less for our residents. They deserve this money, and we deserve to be able to put this money to work for local communities. When I see communities like the city of Sharon, Hazelton, Williamsport, State College, all these, they're all getting more money than we are. When I see that the township of Palmer, relatively wealthy, supposedly they tell me they're wealthy, they get $2.1 million, or they're getting $2.1 million, $500,000 less than us. We have a lot of needs. We have $2.69 million doesn't cover our loss of revenue last year, which is $5.5 million. And that's something that this can do. Stimulus, the ARP money can subsidize. Now, we won't need $5.5 million to do that because we made many cuts and we got through the year, but we can use that to offset lost revenues, our casino money, our parking money, those types of things can be offset. So you're going to see a lot more of this. The U.S. Treasury, I will tell you, could take up to 60 days. That's what Congress gave them, 60 days. 2 months from now, my residents and your residents are going to be evicted. I mean, come on, we got to get this money quicker than that. So the U.S. Treasury has 60 days, but they're trying to do it faster. And Craig from the U.S. Treasury, the Assistant Deputy Secretary, assured us that as soon as he knows anything, he would do that. Just so you know, we meet in the legislation, they have the definition of a metro city, and Easton meets that. It even talks about forming a consortium with Northampton County, or any county. In our case, it was Northampton, that we're still considered a metro city. So we pointed that out in my letters to them, and we point that out at every meeting we have. Tomorrow is another meeting, Northampton County. Lamont McClure has been very, very supportive, but he says that Easton will get his share. And we will, and we really appreciate that from Mr. McClure. However, Mr. McClure shouldn't have to share his money with Easton. That's the county's money, and the county needs to use that money too. So we need to get our own share. And if Sharon, Pennsylvania, can get $13 million with 13,000 people, we should be able to get, well, we won't get 28 million. Our allocation should be somewhere between 15 and $20 million. So we're looking forward to that, and I will keep you updated. I will continue to copy you on all my correspondence. But as I continue to say, don't be afraid to call up Congressman Wild. I will tell you, this is, and I told Louis this story. I have a very good friend who's a very big supporter of political people like Congressman Wild, and he told her yesterday, unless his hometown gets more money and its rightful share, don't even call him for a political contribution. So there are people out there that are getting the message, but I don't want anyone to get upset. Especially, I want Mr. McClure to understand that we're very appreciative. He has done a great job for the county, and the city partnership is better than I've ever seen it. I've been around for 30 years. So I want to apologize if somebody's reading it the wrong way. It's not the way it is, but we want to get our fair share. We shouldn't get any less. Last night's meeting, which people already talked about, was excellent. I already had phone calls. People want to be on the parking task force think tank. People want to be on the chicken committee. So I'll forward the chicken committee people to Mr. O'Connell. The 185 committee, we had our final meeting yesterday in preparation for our agreement of sale tonight. I again want to thank them. They did a great job. There was no pressure from the administration to pick one over the other, one developer over the other developer. I think they did a really good job. I think there's a number of things that separated them from others, including the grocery store, the cinemas, but most importantly, the parking, that most of their parking will be provided on site. And we got our garage in the back that'll be used for overflow. So I want to thank them. And I've offered to them, just so you know, the Pine Street garage RFP is out for bid. 95 individuals downloaded it from Penn Bid. So we have good response so far. We will have a committee, just like we had last time, that will bring a recommendation to you on which developer they think is right. Now, let me, as I did last night, I clarified, but for the people who are on this call, developers in Easton do have to provide parking. They have to provide one parking space per apartment. That's the rules. Unfortunately, that's somewhat negated by tenants who may not want to park where they're supposed to park. So if they, for example, let's say I live in the Commodore. The Commodore is going to have about 30 apartments, and they made arrangements with the Governor Wolf people to have parking down on the Governor Wolf parking lot. And that is taken into consideration for the new development that's going in there as well. The 50 people who already live in the Governor Wolf building, plus the 30 people that are living in the Commodore. I come home at night and I see there's a spot on Northampton Street. I'll park there rather than walking up from the Governor Wolf building. We need some way, and we talked about it on our solicitors meeting this morning. We need some way to stop that from happening. The Governor Wolf parking lot, as you heard from Miss Boyd last night, she lives right next to the Governor Wolf building. She has no off-street parking. She parks on the street, her and Charles. There's people in the Governor Wolf building who have a big parking lot and they can park there, but they're getting a residential parking permit to park on the street. That's not fair to the people who live downtown. So we want to make sure there's all kinds of ideas. Just 2 weeks ago, I talked to one of the owners of the downtown restaurant who was very busy that night with his 75%. He's very happy because he was only at 50% that night, but he was talking to me about parking, and I talked to him about a validation program that we've been trying to start, and he was very supportive of it. I mean, you're going to go in, like I said last night, buy a $10 martini. You can afford to validate somebody's parking garage ticket. So hopefully we'll get people to park in we'll have 2 brand new garages. There's no complaints about why people should be afraid to park in here. And just as I said last night, we are looking at possibly hiring security people for nighttime. So we'll look at those things. But the committee's going to, I'm sure they're going to come up with some great ideas. I also want to let you know that we're extending, I'm going to give a emergency declaration proclamation to extend the income tax filing to coincide with the state and federal government, which will be May 17th instead of April 15th. And the last thing, after 30 years of lobbying for radar actually got on the floor of the House again yesterday. The amendments that were put up there were amendments that the Pennsylvania Municipal League can support, and all municipalities can support, and they passed. So it won't come up today, but it'll come up for a third vote. And if that passes, we will finally have radar for local municipalities in the state of Pennsylvania, the only state that doesn't have it. So hopefully we can start controlling the speed on our streets a little easier than we have now. So moving on. There's no correspondence. There's no unfinished business. Madam Clerk, we're going to go right into new business.
Great.
Mayor, I went into.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what, Louis? I have your name in red. I have your name in red. That's sad. Louis Campos has an update.
No, just a couple updates. Some of them that are material, that things that may happen around town, and it's good for council to be aware of them anyway. In case if you don't hear from me, if you pick up the phone in between meetings, you can hear it right now. Several things. We had a parking summit last night, and one thing that we've been a little silent on, and we're coming out of it shortly, is the need to upgrade all of our parking meters in the city. So shortly, the administration is going to come back in and present to council that need to upgrade, meaning all of our meters need to be upgraded. And right now, the administration's working through different purchasing packages, if you will, for meter upgrades. So I just want everyone to be aware of that. We're looking to upgrade anywhere between 750 and 850 meters. There's 911 meters in the city. Now, to that point, we've had this discussion before. There's a lot of automation going on, but with automation, there's an initial expense. We are looking at the 3rd Street surface lot right now, starting April 5th. It's going to be, there's going to be no meters there. It's going to be pay by app only. There are certain cities throughout the country that are pay by app. The mayor has made it known to the administration that he is not in favor of 100% pay by app, because there's a lot of folks, a lot of residents that prefer not to pay by app. But we do have a small percentage that do prefer to pay by app as well. It's fairly diverse with the different options that we have. So I just want to let everyone know that the 3rd Street lot next to Mesa will be pay by app only, and we'll be monitoring how successful that lot is. Of course, that would require no meters, no future upgrades. It's just a smartphone if you have one. Last week, I attended the PELRAS conference under the PML, if you all can recall. PELRAS is the Pennsylvania Employee Labor Relations Conference under the PML. I will tell you a couple of the subject matters, but one of them certainly was coming out of COVID in this new COVID environment, talking about policies, et cetera, and managing the workforce. So things are consistently changing. I think the mayor last night made a quick mention that sometime in June, we expect to start having live city council meetings. There are going to be some strings attached to that, of course. We're following CDC guidelines. So we'll be keeping council updated. Another topic was Act 111 arbitration as a theme and bargaining in a COVID world. As the mayor had mentioned, a lot of municipalities have taken a significant revenue hit. So that does impact the way arbitrators are giving out awards right now. I won't make a prediction, but it seemingly, obviously, it could be the arbitration awards could be in favor of the municipality, potentially, depending on the finances, et cetera. But that's yet to be determined. It's the kind of thing where history tells a story. So we'll be looking back and then shaking our heads and saying, yes, that made sense back then, but it's hard to tell what's going to happen now. And another topic that came up, one of Joel's favorite topics right now, was a roundtable discussion and ask the arbitrators. The good thing about PELRAS is that they bring a series of arbitrators to these conferences, and then the participants can ask them all different types of questions. Moving right along to some employee updates. Just want to let everyone know that Captain Lahenitz's last day is next Wednesday. And I've been working with the chief on working with a plan, a succession plan to make those changes. We will be coming to city council with those types of recommendations. This goes through the civil service process, as you all know. So the chief is working on that. Frank Caruso's also last day is going to be at the 1st of June. He's working through May. He's going to be remote April and May, but working together with myself. We are going to be advertising for his position shortly. I believe in the next week we'll start posting for that. We are going through a list of his projects. I am with Frank on a weekly basis. And as I had mentioned to council a couple meetings back, we're going to have Frank come in and address city council on many of the IT projects that are currently happening. I received a notice from AFSCME's attorney, and AFSCME's contract ends at the end of this year. So we're going to begin negotiations shortly. They formally send a letter to commence these negotiations. So I just want to let everyone know that the intent is to negotiate with AFSCME and have a contract by the end of the year. As we all know, the Fraternal Order of Police, that's in arbitration, and we settled, obviously, the fire contract that was done late last year, I believe.
Louis, can I just mention something?
Go right ahead.
Piggyback on that. The ARP money has two distinct limitations on what that money can be used for. One, we can't take that money and put it into our pension fund. And two, we can't use it in negotiations to give people more increases than the national average. So I just want to mention that if we got $18 million and put it against our unfunded pension liability, that would really help, and it would lower our annual fee of our mandatory municipal obligation, but we're not allowed to do that.
That's correct, Mayor. In fact, one of the themes at PELRAS was that the monies that are coming through the stimulus package are to be used for one-time expenses, not for any type of other employee expenses. And they were fairly specific on that. On that note, tomorrow at 9 o'clock, as the mayor had mentioned, Northampton County is going to be hosting a roundtable, if you will, to discuss the American Rescue Plan. I will be attending on behalf of the city. If there's any members of council that would like to join me, please send me an email. It's going to be done remotely via Zoom, so I can certainly send you the credentials or sign you up, whatever needs to get done. Lastly, two other things. I continue to meet myself and Mark Lesnecki, not only with the controller, as you heard, but also with our directors. I meet with our directors one-on-one on a weekly basis and some of them on a bi-weekly basis. And that's in order to really roll up our sleeves and get deep into operational issues. But I'd mentioned this before, and I just want to let all of council know. I also meet with my counterparts. There's 6 other cities on a monthly basis. It's called the 6 Cities Group. And we meet to discuss all of these issues and how that I just mentioned, arbitration, policies, budget, et cetera. And we discuss all these issues and share information, even as granular as Dr. Ruggles, fire apparatus, purchasing, et cetera, and whatever other topics that may come up. Now, these cities are unique because we're all aging. We have a lot of capital needs, and the resources are slim, as the mayor had mentioned. So we're constantly sharing information and best practices, just as an effort to make sure that we're all moving our cities forward appropriately and advising our councils as needed. I think that's my update. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Louis, I'm sorry, could you send me your report then, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, we can go right into the new business.
Okay, we have bill number 6 that's being introduced by Mayor Panto, where they would be creating 2 15-minute pickup zones and also creating a load and unload zone.
So introduce.
Question, Sal?
Go ahead, Dr. Ruggles.
Why do they need all the way from Bank to 4th? I mean, that seems to me, and that, I mean, that's the first part. And the second part, there's a lot of concrete blocks there right now. Are those going to be removed?
We meet tomorrow morning. We have a meeting with the restaurants to talk about outdoor dining. One of the things that last year, outdoor dining was the only place you could have food was outdoors because of the pandemic. This year, next week they go up to 75%. So the need for outdoor dining space is not as great as it was last year. We're going to introduce to them tomorrow the idea of the streeteries, which they will be able to get only the parking spaces in front of their business. And that traffic needs to open again on the 200, 300 block of Northampton Street and Ferry Street.
Well, if that's the case, then they're going to be out there instead of a load unload zone. I mean,
no, they won't. No, that's why it's all the way to that area. They'll be able to go from west border of the public market to 4th Street. That'll actually be the only space that'll be allowed, because the other, I'm assuming the public market and Oak will want the streeteries.
Right. Well, I mean, this said from Bank Street to 4th Street.
Well, it is from Bank Street eventually, only because most of those deliveries come by tractor trailer, and it's easier for them just to pull it. But we can change it to just 3 or 4 spaces. But we don't, with the public market having 13 vendors inside, there's a lot of deliveries, and with the construction of the 4th Street garage in the back, they're not going to be able to deliver to the back. All the deliveries will have to be to the front. And we're limiting it to 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., mainly to get them deliveries early in the morning so that we don't disturb the rest of the business community.
Is the market even open that early to receive deliveries?
Well, when I say 5 to 9, it's really going to be 7 to 9. Yeah, when I see people in there when I'm downtown early in the morning, because deliveries don't care what your hours are. They're going to deliver when they want it.
I understand that, but I assume they know when their delivery is coming.
Yeah,
Correct.
they do.
Are we leaving it the way it is, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and we have bill number 7, which will create or change an ordinance where we would be changing the 300 block of Church Street between North 3rd and Bank Street to become one-way west. That's being introduced by Mr. Ettinger.
So introduced.
And then bill number 8 was removed. Bill number 9 is being introduced by Mrs. Volcano, and it's approving a purchase and sale agreement between the City of Easton and PD 185 South 3rd Street LLC.
So introduced. Are we gonna now?
Yes, now we can open up the council comments first. Dr. Ruggles?
Yeah, I, just in the very first line of that, it says, purchase sale agreement, dated as of February something. Okay, is this a date that's going to be put in once it's approved or what? I mean, February is long gone.
I would normally change that to the date once we approve it. Once council approves it, we normally would change the date.
Okay, but I mean, one of the issues here is that the purchaser only has 3 days after this effective date, which is what they call it, to make a payment. And so I think being able to define that date very well so that they're not put into a situation, if you will, might be a good thing. I mean, just because we approve it, it might take another day for it to get signed or, whatever. So, but I think we need to think about what day that actually is.
Yeah, if I may, I think with all the drafts that went back and forth over the last 9 months, which is probably about 20, the one thing no one ever suggested was to delete the word February. Obviously, it should be dated as of whatever date city council actually not only adopts it, but we got to wait 30 days from the date of final approval for it to be effective. So I think really it should just be left blank and it should be completed when the city, actually, I think we could complete it as of the date that the city or the city council adopts it at the next meeting. I don't think we have to worry about that 30 days because everything's going to get started. If anything happened afterwards, we'd be able to roll it back. So I just think the February part should be deleted, and with the understanding that it will be completed as of the date city council gives final approval to the ordinance.
That's not 30 days, Joel, that's 3 days. According to Article 3.
No, I understand.
It says within 3 days.
The 30 days I was referring to didn't have anything to do with the contract. It has to do with our home rule charter that says everything's effective.
Oh, okay, yeah.
For 30 days.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, which if we ever did a home rule charter amendment, that's the first thing that has to go. But that's what I was referring to, but I think all the parties really once city council, if city council, I don't want to assume anything. If city council does vote to adopt the ordinance at the next meeting, I think we could fill in the date then and start that process going. Because the key thing here is you got a 3 and let's say up to 4 month due diligence period, during which time the buyer can just say thank you, but no thanks, and we start all over again. So it's good to get that process going as soon as we can.
Okay, we have a resolution being, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You want to go ahead? Well, I thought we did that already.
Well, no, she moved it and there were some comments and now I'm going to the next item.
No. We got to hold on. Louis, you have a presentation on 185 South 3rd. Then we have some people who want to speak on it.
Oh, okay.
Mayor, I'm gonna turn it over to the Prone Development team
Okay.
who want to address this, but I do want to preface that it, like Joel had said, it's taken some time. Part of it was due to COVID, obviously, but nevertheless, about a year ago or so or less, as everyone can recall, there was a committee that voted in favor of a proposal that turned into an agreement that council is voting on. Yesterday, the administration briefed the committee with the latest details with regards to the agreement of sale, which council all has and was able to read through, and including updates to the proposed development. And as we all know, it's a proposed development. There was some deviation, obviously, because it's going to go through the planning process. And as it goes through that deliberative process, there's going to be things that are going to be changed due to various types of requirements. But here today is the Peron development team to give us a high-level overview of the current project as it stands. And I'm going to turn it over to them if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
So Tracy, if you can allow Peron development to present as a panelist.
Yes, I already approved them. They just need to unmute.
Okay. And then Peron, whoever's speaking, whoever's in control, you now can, I believe, share your screen. We're going to give you controls. If we didn't do it already, we're going to do it shortly. Tracy,
And just the name of who's giving the presentation, please.
Well, I'm going to have
It's
them.
good.
I'm going to have.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Yes.
So
So
John,
it's,
you have controls. Why don't you introduce yourself, and whenever you're ready, you can put up your presentation on the screen.
We are trying to share. I think we're good now. We were disabled, but I think we're good now. Can you, everybody see the screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So my name is John Callahan, Director of Development with Peron Development. With me this evening is Carlos Tovar, who is a principal architect with USA Architects. We're actually on the 7th floor of the Alpha building, not too far from you, in downtown Easton. So it's a pleasure to be with you this evening. I appreciate council giving us the opportunity to make the presentation this evening, as well as the mayor and the administration. What we're going to share with you this evening is and I also want to thank the 185 committee for their support through this entire process, and Attorney Scheer. It's very similar to the original concept that was presented to the 185 committee that led us to be selected. There's very little really in the way of material changes to the concept, just as we worked our way through the plan and got better idea of the topography of the site. Certain aspects of the site changed, but I think for all material purposes, it's very similar to what we had originally discussed as a part of the process. I think it's interesting. I enjoyed your presentation, Mayor, in regard to sort of your update on the state of the city and the history of this site from its urban renewal days to it's sort of what the dream, and then the reality, and then it's got a current reality. It's a vacant lot, and then what we sort of hope will be sort of the future, as you said, and we kind of view the confluence as if you look at the definition of a confluence, it's the junction or the connection of two rivers of approximately equal width, which obviously it is that with the Lehigh and the Delaware coming together. But it also is another definition is sort of the act or process of coming together or of merging. And that's kind of what we see this site as, is an opportunity to bring sort of Southeastern, downtown Easton, the central business district, and West Easton all together on, and most importantly, the public together on one site. We spent a lot of time reviewing the comprehensive plan, the 2035 plan that Easton put together a few years ago to make sure that this site kind of fit into that vision. This is probably the largest project. I think Phil Mittman former Mayor Mittman made a comment, this might be the largest project in the history of Easton. So it's important that we get it right. And as I said earlier, it's kind of an opportunity for Easton to think appropriately big. And if you look at the comp plan, one of the things that they kind of lay out as a vision for the city is that it'll be a city, that Easton will be a city where the past and the present can coexist and still maintain the beloved character that Easton has today. And it's going to be a place where the river is not an edge, but rather an integral part of how the city functions and is experienced, and that the citizens of Easton can achieve all these things and must do them in order to set the stage for what will be inevitably the next chapter in its history. So, Mayor, you talked about the future. This project is going to be a big part of that future, and we hope that the confluence sort of sets that stage going forward. And so I'm going to give a brief overview, but mostly I'm going to turn it over to Carlos and let him walk you through the concept. If you'll indulge me for a moment, perhaps council might be interested in a little bit of an update on the Seville project. As you can see by driving down North Third Street. The steel's been up for quite some time. We've now poured most of the slab on grade. The plumbing roughing, the utility tie-ins are all completed. We're doing some of the metal studs now, and tomorrow we're going to set up a crane for framing. And you'll see that there's really going to be a lot of activity on that site as we go vertical with the project going forward. Now that we're up and out of the ground, so you're going to see that project move rather quickly. And our current sort of completion date and move-in date is mid-February. So we're super excited about that project, and we'll then sort of hopefully flow right into the confluence after that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Carlos, and he can walk council through sort of the update on the confluence on the project. And also, I just want to point out that with us on the call this evening as well is our attorney Seth Tipton, if you've got any specific legal questions related to the agreement of sale.
Thank you, John. This is Carlos Tobar again from USA Architect. Thank you for the opportunity. If you are not familiar with the site is located in Terrace Street in the intersection with Larry Holmes and Washington. The site is about 3 acres. And as you can see, the site has really the potential of become a landmark from the city when you come from the site, and create a really straight connection with the existing Easton Circle. So the way that we are looking at this site is to supplement and increase the amenities for the local residents, and people actually come out from outside the city. Here is actually we're looking the building in a closer view. This is we're looking the building from the air. Again, here is Larry Hall. So we are right in front of the McDonald's. We got Terrace Street, and then we had the Forest Street. So again, this is you look at the concept, this is a building that is open to the community. The main goal of this building is everybody from the community will be able to come, entertain, and gather. Also, the residents will be able to use the city of Easton as an amenity. And therefore, we have many connections to come through the site. We have a ramp, and I will show you more details. A ramp coming from Terrace Street. If you come from the circle, if you come from Forest Street, you will be able to get on this ramp. We actually have a sitting area amphitheater in front of the building. Overall, the building have 213 parking spaces, about 23,000 square feet of retails, 14,000 square feet of amenities. It's a total of 216 rental units and 50 condominiums. This image is actually the garage underground. So we see here in Terrace Street. In Terrace Street, we have 9,000 square feet for retail. We're trying to engage a grocery store that would be ideal for this development. This is the ramp that I was referring to. Again, you have a capacity for 215 parking spots. Now this is the upper level, the open plaza. Again, if you come from Forest Street, you will have access to this open plaza. And also you come from Terrace Street, you will have access to this plaza. And again, the amphitheater, the seating area is right on the corner on the intersection of Larry Hall and Terrace Street. One thing that you can see here is what we look at having 2 cinemas. Each cinema, you have a capacity of about 100 seats. We have about 8,000 square feet of retail for the open plaza. One of the ideas is for this plaza, we maintain the idea if let's say ArtQuest come here, this plaza will be open for all different kind of events. This opening here, this called opening to the sidewall, actually will permit to come food trucks, so vendors could be actually in this elevator plaza. The rest of the floor is dedicated to the residents, and we have a total of 20 units on this floor. And again, we have lobby for the residents, we have lobby for the condominiums, allow opportunity for retail. So again, if you are driving to Terrace Street or to Larry Home, you will have a direct connection with the retail area. The upper floor, this is the second floor. Again, this is the building A, which is the condominium component. We have a connection bridge to the parking garage and transportation. And on this level, the residents adjacent to Forest Street, they will have a private entrance. So this is more or less, and you will see on the renders at the end of my presentation, I will show you those are the townhouses concepts. Again, this floor is all about of 2 bedrooms and 1 bedroom. 1 bedroom be the blue, and the 2 bedrooms being the orange. This floor is total of 36 units. Also, there is a community space. The community space will have a beautiful views. The community will be able to connect with the outdoors and the river. And we're proposing a pool deck area on this location. So again, all the residents will be able to connect from the pool to the outdoors areas. On the third floor, we have a community gym. Again, when the views to the outdoors, we have a 2-bedroom unit. We have 1-bedroom units. And again, this is the condominium component. And this floor, we have a total of 38 units. The 4th floor is similar. We have the condominium. We still have the connection to the parking garage. We have 1-bedroom units and two 2-bedroom units. This is a total of 37 units as well. The 5th floor is, again, we have the building A, which is the condominium, and we have more amenity for the resident. We have green roof, we have roof terraces on this upper floor. The idea is to step the building back so it doesn't feel the scales come down when you look at the building from Larry Homes. On the 6th floor, again, this is condominium. This floor is all for the resident. There's no amenities on this floor. It's all 2 bedrooms and 1 bedroom. Here is the concept that we have in the architecture. The main concept here is have local materials, the use of masonry and the wood, the wood construction. One of the things that we're trying to get when the architecture is may get the feeling of this block will have a personality where all the facades are different architecture. So when you are looking at this building, it feels like a total city block, like where all buildings have their own personality. Again, this is the amphitheater steps. Again, the residents and the public will be enjoying. You know, you can have lunch, grab your lunch, sit down here, look at the outdoors. A lot of what we're trying to offer in this building is you know, we're trying to make sure the residents boost their physical activities. So a lot of what we're trying to do is allow biking, make sure that we provide bike racks, and also make sure that we have a staging area for the kayaks so people can enjoy the river right across the street. And of course, the terraces from the connection of Terrace Street and Larry Homes, the residents will have the opportunity to connect when they're outdoors. And increase that level of communication, right? Like if you are at the lower level and you're a pedestrian, it's always have that communication when people are in different levels. And this view, this is from Forest Street. One thing that we did was we actually went around to the buildings in the city and start looking at every different window types. So we were able to incorporate this in the facade. We believe we see the character, you know, being in office, you know, big portion, the big working here in Easton. It gave me the opportunity to understand the architecture and be sensitive of what really happened in forestry. So for us, it was very important make sure that the forestry get a level of character of this traditional architecture, where we trying to make sure that we're proposing a timeless concept. And with this, I finished my presentation, and we are open to any questions.
Let me jump in then quickly, because one thing that council had read in the agreement of sale, this is the question regarding development, is obviously the time frame that was put in place. So there's a 4-month due diligence period followed by a 12-month planning period, if you will, followed by then a settlement, an acquisition date, and then you have a 24-month period to start construction. I do want to advise council that we put in place or we entertained a letter from the Prawn Development team to conduct drilling and some environmental testing on the site that will begin immediately. The results of those tests, in consideration for that, the Prawn Development team will be providing the results back to the city. So technically, they're starting their work almost immediately. Obviously, that's the city's going to get something out of that. But then there starts a formal, then 4-month due diligence process. John, can you speak a little bit to that? Because I know we have the time frame, but can you tell us a little bit more about what your expectations are? Obviously, we won't hold you to them because we have agreed to a specific time frame. Tell us a little bit about, in your words, what you're thinking here.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Louis. So as you stated, tomorrow morning, I appreciate the city getting the lot cleared for us, but tomorrow morning we will start our efforts in terms of ground penetrating radar to understand what lies beneath the lot. I mean, what sometimes looks like a fairly kind of a benign parking lot. With the history of a lot of these sites, we ran into some significant challenges at the Seville as well. So part of our due diligence period is to sort of do that core drilling, do the environmental testing, and do the GPR, ground penetrating radar, to understand exactly what is subsurface there. So we are anxious, as you pointed out, to get started. We don't want to wait the 30 days till this agreement becomes official. And it is our intention, assuming that everything goes reasonably well with that exploration and those studies, it is our intention to close on the site relatively quickly. I mean, when I say that, I mean in a matter of the next couple of months. So it is while we have the time as per the agreement to do our due diligence and to get our approvals, we are anxious to get started and will likely close on the property in the near term, within a few months once the agreement's in place. And then after that, obviously, we've got 2 years then to start construction. So that's where we have to work our way through the land development process, through zoning, planning, the Historic Architecture Review Board, all of those steps in order, financing, construction documents, all the things we need to do in order to be ready to break ground and get started. But as far as getting the control of the property and owning the property, we do not anticipate taking the full length that we are allowed within the agreement.
Mayor, you're on mute. You're still on mute, Mayor.
Any questions from council? Let's try a third time.
Mayor, if there are no questions from council.
Yeah, we have people I know from the 185 committee that want to speak.
That's correct. And I'm going to ask Prawn Development if they can close out their presentation.
Sure.
I believe Diane Devlin is going to be the first person to speak.
Diane Havlin, how are you?
Diane Havlin, excuse me.
How you doing, Diane? Are you there yet? Not yet.
I'm unmuting. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, so council members, my name is Diane Haviland. I am a member of the 185 committee. And I live in downtown Easton. And I actually wanted to support and talk a bit about the process for what we went through as city residents, as the process that we went through to come to you with this recommendation. So I will tell you this, that my background is about process. And so great process, great execution, poor process, poor execution. And I was very impressed with the process in which we as citizens came together. It was a diverse group of people from every, as you know, from every community in the city, and from diverse backgrounds. And we came together, but I was really so shocked how we all came together around one goal, what was really important to us. So I'm really want to say that the process was superb in that we had an outside facilitator, a professor from Lehigh University. If you think about it, council members, we were sitting at the around the boardroom table, and the executives were around, they were behind us, only supporting us. And that through the whole process, we knew very much that we were evaluators and we were influencers. And at the end of the day, you get to make that decision. But I can tell you with confidence that we did our due diligence, we listened and we discussed, and everybody came to this unanimous conclusion that this was the best for what we thought this city, the best benefit for what the city could really, it would be a beautiful addition. So I'm only here to talk about the process and to thank at least Dr. Ruggles and Ms. Volcano for being there. And I don't think they spoke but 3 times in the 15 meetings that we had. They were there to guide us, but I hope you understand that the process was fair and equitable. And I feel confident that this is a representation of what we, the committee, believes is a great proposal.
Very good, Diane. Thank you very much for your service. Susan Eagle, you have your hand raised as well.
Thank you. I additionally was part of the committee that evaluated all of the developers. And I'm going to basically just reiterate what Diane just said, that I was really impressed with how well all of us came together. There was never any arguments. We listened to each other. We, again, it was a very diverse group of people. We respected each other's opinions, hashed things out together, discussed things really, really well. I agree that this is truly, I think, the best developer for this site, for the city. I like the green space that is part of the project, where the city residents can come in, and if our Arts Quest wants to do a concert, where there's that little area where they could have a little concert and the citizens can come in and do stuff. But I would really, I would highly recommend to City Council that you approve this. I really think that it's in the best interest of the city that we approve this project. It's going to bring revenue into the city that we need. It's going to help maintain taxes at a lower level. And I just think it's the right fit for our city.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Anyone else from the public would like to address this issue? Raise your hand. The button is at the bottom of your screen, and we'll let you into the room to speak. I don't see any other hands raised. So we'll move on. Anybody member of council have any further questions before we vote?
I just have a comment. I'm just very honored to be part of this committee also, and to be chairing this committee, because it was a very good discussion group, and it was a very good diversified, and I think they made a good decision. I think we're moving in the right track for the city.
I too like to just have a comment. I like to thank each and every one of them for giving up so much time from family and friends and activities they normally do to participate and moving Easton forward. This is one of many projects that is on the Easton slate right now. And as we invite the community in, we'll see more and more of this. Again, I commend the committee and thank them for their time and their family for giving of their time.
Okay. Thank you very much. And to the committee, thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
It was just introduced, Mayor.
Ordinance.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. We vote on it in 2 weeks.
That's okay.
We-
But we
we'd
do have a
like to vote on
resolution.
it tonight.
We do have a resolution being introduced by Mrs. Volcano, where it's the city supporting a RACP grant in the amount of $1 million to be used to fund the renovations of the Reineck Rope Company.
It's a resolution.
Let me just say that the award, we already were awarded $1 million. But the award, like all RACPs, come through the city. So the city and the college are working on, this is an agreement for how that will be administered over time. But we're real happy that the college has decided to restore that wonderful Reineck Rope factory. It's not much to look at. It's not a lot of historical detail, but the history of that Mr. Reineck and that Reineck Rope Company and the things that they did and building of the Panama Canal and everything else, they were a legend in their own time. So it's good to have the Reineck Rope Company still part of the Easton history. Dr. Ruggles.
Also, you might want to mention that there's going to be an EMS component in that.
Good point.
Which is very, very, in my opinion, very valuable, getting distribution of the services across the city.
Good point. Yeah, the college is giving space for the Easton Emergency Squad to house people and apparatus in that building so they have a shorter time getting to the northern parts of our city. Mrs. Volcano?
It's also enhancing that neighborhood down there on Bushwick Drive.
Completely has changed.
Neighborhood as they go up toward 13th Street.
Yeah,
So
it's
thank
certainly
everybody.
from the Silk Mill to the 500 garage, it's certainly a different look.
That's what we're all about, trying to enhance the neighborhoods.
Yep. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
So Sandy, you moved it. I
Oh,
need
I'm
a
sorry.
second.
I move. No, it's a resolution.
Second.
Isn't it? I move it.
Yes.
Second by Mr. Brown. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan.
Aye.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Ettinger approving an intermunicipal agreement between the city of Easton and Williams Township. And it has to do with the I-78 North stormwater improvements, having also to do with the MS4 program.
So moved.
Someone want to second it? Second by Mrs. Volcano. Just want to mention that one of the areas that we continuously get flooding in is over on Line Street. This is a great intermunicipal agreement and shows neighborly cooperation with Williams Township. And I'm looking forward to making this a reality. Stormwater management in that area has been difficult. When PennDOT built the interstate, very little, very, very small detention bases were put in, and all that water just travels down along Center Street to the Lehigh River, and it floods that area in the city all the time. So I'm real happy about that. Dr. Ruggles.
All right, there we go. Yeah, I do have a question on this. I don't know if this would be answered by Dave or not, but on item number 5 and number 6, it appears to me that the city of Easton is responsible for all the maintenance, functionality, and everything else. And we're not sharing the cost. We're sharing costs for construction. But as far as maintenance and upkeep, we're carrying the load, and I'm not sure why that is. I mean, if it's a joint thing, why aren't we sharing the that particular component too.
I'll let Mr. Hopkins address that. You're muted, David. Mr. Hopkins, are you there?
I might be able to answer that.
Go ahead,
Mayor.
Jeremy.
I was involved in some of the discussions in drafting the agreement. Dr. Ruggles, the main reason for our maintaining it is because the goal is for these features to count towards the city's MS4 program and the amount of steps we have to take to comply with MS4 and to meet all the various requirements that are within that program. And to do that, even if they aren't located within the city, as long as the city is maintaining them and they are entering the waterways that are kind of within the city limits, in this case, the Lehigh, by maintaining them, we would get that credit. And that's a big issue, that the city has to meet certain state requirements within a deadline.
Okay, but I mean, Williams is also getting something out of this in the fact that they're being deferred from going into the program.
Well,
being a participant, correct?
They are, but they're also helping pay for some of this, and so that's the trade-off. The benefit is certainly in the regard of getting these credits bigger for us, as far as meeting those criteria that the state set out within the deadlines, and that's my understanding of why we're handling the maintenance of it ongoing. The biggest expense is going to be the construction. The maintenance isn't going to be nearly as big as the construction costs.
We're actually maintaining it now. That swale that goes down from I-78 to the Lehigh along Center Street, before it gets to our underground system, that swale is being blocked by neighbors from Williams Township and businesses in Williams Township. So every time we have a rain event, Dave sends out our employees to clear the screening on the pipe and try to make it so that those people the water doesn't back up into their houses. So I'm not overly concerned about the maintenance. I am concerned about the construction. I think I would like to see the agreement say 50-50 share rather than just share, but I'm sure that's what it meant. So we'll take it on our word for now, but
that is the intent, Mayor, was equally share. And obviously there's going to be subsequent agreements when we actually know what we're doing. This is just kind of an agreement to get everybody on the same page so that we can start moving the process forward. There will be more detailed things that will come before council, obviously before any funds are outlaid or things of that nature, and further commitments are made. This is just the step one in this process. And it can be difficult to conduct these kind of intermunicipal agreements. The state is obviously very supportive of the process, understands that these things, waterways, cross over the boundary lines of municipal areas. And like you said, Mayor, this area affects, I think, the city more so than Williams Township. I'm not as familiar on the ground as I'm sure Dave and you are, but my understanding is that the city of Easton gets a lot of the impact of this stormwater runoff and the
we're
problems.
definitely getting the impact. That's very true.
Right.
Just like we'll get the impact from the truck stop that's going to be built there if that ever gets approved.
Dr. Ruggles, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does, but I have one more, if you don't
Okay.
mind. And actually, this is going to be geared towards you. Just some language in item number 3. In the very first paragraph of that says, the city of Easton, on its own behalf and on the behalf of Williams Township, will jointly solicit proposals. Now, the next one says, the city of Easton, on its own behalf and on behalf of Williams Township, will solicit proposals. In the first one, it says Easton's doing it on behalf of Williams, but then you say it's going to be jointly. And I just don't think the word jointly should be in there.
Well, and my understanding of it is that the need for doing that is just because there might be some that are joint and some that are single. And again, it all goes back to the credits for the MS4 program. I think that.
Well, then why does the second one not have jointly in there? I mean, there's 2 of them there that are not the same in my opinion.
So you're talking the second paragraph in paragraph 3.
In paragraph 3, the first paragraph says the city of Easton on its own.
Yep.
Own behalf and on the behalf of Williams Township.
Right.
Will jointly solicit proposals. Okay. The second paragraph says exactly the same thing up to that point. Says city of Easton on its own behalf, on behalf of Williams Township, will solicit bids, but doesn't have will jointly. There's the will jointly in the beginning, and there's no will jointly in the second. And
Jointly for the professional design. Dave, are you allowed to? Can you talk yet? You're still muted.
Yeah, I'm not sure the detail. I don't think from a legal standpoint that makes a huge difference.
Okay, well, that's fine. It seemed strange to me. It's strange to me. It seemed like the city of Easton was going to do it on behalf of both Williams and us.
Right.
In Easton. And then it says, we'll jointly solicit. But I mean, if we're doing it on behalf of both, how can we do it jointly?
If I may, and I have the luxury of looking at this, from a couple feet away. I believe the first paragraph is the solicitation, and the third package is the actual awarding, and that would make sense. Where the city is the one who takes the proposals in, but because each of us are separate municipalities, we must each act separately separately and jointly to award, to actually give the award.
Right. Each
That
one of
makes
these
sense?
phases in future contracts is going to have to be approved by both municipalities. Even whoever does the soliciting can be the city of Easton, but we can't bind Williams Township, just like Williams Township can't bind the city. So they would need to approve anything as well as you would need to approve anything.
I would say then, Jeremy, I just to be consistent, I would say in the second paragraph, we should add the term jointly there, because it's not there.
Well, but we don't.
No, but, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm just
Go
going
ahead.
to
I
point
think
out that one thing is soliciting, and the other thing is awarding.
Right.
It's just who is the party who's, so you don't have two people looking for things and just confusing things. You have one principal negotiator. Basically, I mean, that could be a way to look at it. The city is recognizing it's probably, paragraph 3 is what says it will
I wasn't even talking about paragraph 3. I'm sorry, but I mean, it's probably a moot point, but I was talking about paragraph 1, which is a solicitation of proposals, and paragraph 2, which is a solicitation of bids. One says jointly, the other doesn't say jointly. And that's all I'm saying.
Okay, yeah, I would just read it when it says, and on behalf of Williams Township, it is the same. The word jointly may have been left, but they're both the action words is that the city of Easton on its own and on behalf of Williams Township. And the next one starts the same way. And you could throw in the word jointly, and it would, and I understand what you're saying now. I don't think it makes any legal difference, because it's the first words that really create, you don't need the word jointly, because that's what you're doing when you're saying that. Probably you would delete the word jointly from the first paragraph would make more sense than adding the word jointly on the second paragraph. And the key thing is the third paragraph, when it comes to the award, that's joint, because it has to be joint. Either we both do it or we can't do it.
And obviously the plan is for the two municipalities to work very closely together throughout this process, because there's going to require a lot of cooperation from the departments on both sides of the boundary. I agree with Joel that I don't think
I really like the third paragraph's wording. If it's I think that third paragraph is perfect. I think it should be worded that way in the first two, but that's my opinion. That's okay.
Well, we did not get a signed agreement from them yet.
I thought we did.
I think
Oh,
we
we
do.
did?
We do, Mayor. I believe Williams Township has approved this agreement already.
Okay, I don't have a signature.
I didn't get a copy of the signed agreement either.
Okay, last I heard, I believe, I'll check the emails and I'll get a copy to you, Mayor, and read it. But I believe Williams Township has already approved this.
Okay.
Yeah, I could be wrong. All right.
Well, the copy I
remember
have
seeing
is
something.
unsigned by Williams Township at this point. That's
I'm
all.
sorry, Rita. What was that?
I said the copy that I have right now is unsigned by Williams Township.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, we taking a vote, Mayor?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano? Mrs. Volcano? Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Ettinger addressing the pool season. And it would be that the season passes will not be issued for the 2021 season, and that the daily rates will remain the same as they are in the ordinance now. And the first hour of operation between 12 and 1 p.m. will be restricted to City of Easton residents only.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in, seconded by Ruggles. Comments, concerns, questions? I do know that Dave, for some reason, I can't get, Dave is still muted, but, and he's not making connection, but his name is here. I did talk to Lori, and Roger was with me when I saw Lori on Monday. They are having difficulty getting lifeguards. This will determine whether they can get us lifeguards to staff the pools is going to be the only reason why we wouldn't open the pools. If we can't get enough, we could always do every other pool, every other day, odd, even day, and then open them both on weekends if we have enough staff. If we have staff that wants to work part-time on weekends but can't work weekdays or work at someplace else, we're still working it out, but our intent is to open the swimming pools this year. And our intent, since this resolution goes to daily passes only, is because season passes, as the memo says, we can't have, if it's 95 degrees out, we cannot fill the pool up like we normally would. We have to have social distancing, at least as of yet. Now, that may change in July, but we don't know. So it'll be season passes will not be allowed, but residents of Easton will get first shot for the first hour so that we don't have residents not getting in and non-residents getting in. We are the only pool in the neighborhood, in the area that will be allowing non-residents in their pools.
Ready for a vote?
Yep.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mrs. Volcano where we are, let me see here, we're approving a due diligence access agreement to 185 South 3rd Street, the developer for that. And I think Mr. Callahan spoke about this earlier.
Yes, he did. And so move it.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Brown. Any comments or concerns, questions? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
And we have our last resolution being introduced by Mr. Ettinger. And it is actually approving an addendum to the 1998 sewage treatment service agreement.
So moved.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Ruggles, second. Any comments? Roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye. At this time, we have the opportunity for the public to address city council on anything that's going to come before city council that deals with the city of Easton. If you would want to raise your hand, please raise your hand and we'll recognize you, bring into the room to speak. I see no hands raised by the people who are still here. We had a high of 17. We have a low of six people are still with us. At this time, is there any member of council needs to add anything to the agenda or anything to the meeting? Any comments or concerns? Questions? I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded by O'Connell. Roll call when you get a chance, Mayor, Madam Clerk.
Mr. O'Connell,
aye.
Dr. Ruggles. Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volpino,
Aye.
Mayor Pianta,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
and Mr. Moran.
Aye.
Thank you all very much for your time and appreciate your efforts. Have a great night.
Thank you. Good night, guys.